Is there a motion to take 770 Success Avenue off the table? Motion by Mr. Dempsey, second by Mr. Hoydick. All in favor? Any opposed? Discussion? Mr. Dempsey?
Mr. Chairman, considering that everything in Stony Brook is non-conforming, and the lady has trouble getting up and down the stairs, you know, back and forth, I don't see no reason why we shouldn't pass this. So I'll make a motion that we pass petition number 1.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Discussion? Can I offer?
Ms. Young?
Thank you. Can I offer a friendly amendment to Mr. Dempsey's motion? Mr. Urbanski was highlighting that public safety are terms of art that are useful in circumstances like this. So if you are willing, if you could add public safety as part of your rationale for granting the variance,
Sure.
then I would second the motion.
Motion made by Ms. Young, second. No, I'm sorry, second by Ms. Young. Is there a motion to make a judgment?
I make a motion we pass with the stipulations for public safety.
Roll call. Ms. Young?
Aye.
Ms. Streets?
Aye.
Mr. Hoydick?
Aye.
Mr. Dempsey?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. Okay, is there a motion to take 577 Woodlawn off the table? Motion made by Ms. Young, second by Mr. Hoydick. All in favor? Any opposed? Discussion. Does anybody have any questions for 577 Woodlawn? Mr. Dempsey?
I just got one word. They say the storm door opens up and hits the railing. Now I can understand trying to bump that out a little bit. You know, what was it, 9'4" or 9'6"? So, I mean, just for safety reasons, I would vote yes for this.
With that stipulation?
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Ms. Young?
To follow suit, and as we did the last item, if Mr. Dempsey would accept a friendly amendment that the rationale, the hardship for granting this variance would include the lot area, lot width, and lot depth as referenced in Mr. Urbanski's comments as recited by the applicant,
Certainly, I'm a friendly guy.
then I'll second Mr. Dempsey's motion.
Second by Ms. Young. Motion to approve? Mr. Dempsey, second by Ms. Young. Roll call vote.
Aye.
Ms. Young? Ms. Streets?
Aye.
Mr. Hoydick? Aye. Mr. Dempsey?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. Motion to take 2381 Barnum Avenue off the table. So moved by Ms. Streets, second. Second by Ms. Young. Discussion? Ms. Young?
I'm not making a motion, I'm just having discussion.
Absolutely.
I'm concerned that the comments which were received by the applicant and read by the representative didn't take into account the recommendations offered or suggestions offered by Mr. Urbanski, which is a fatal flaw for me. We heard testimony that there will be at least 5 employees who will be there between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. There were opportunities to seek out at least half, I think is the reference made in Mr. Urbanski's comments, parking to meet their needs within a 200-foot vicinity. Not only was it not secured, it was dismissed as a good suggestion. So I'm concerned about what the impacts will be to intensify the uses on site without making any offers of mitigation whatsoever.
Excuse me, any further discussion? Motion to approve or disapprove?
I'll make a motion to deny for failure to demonstrate adequate hardship.
Ms. Treese?
I will second that motion.
Mr. Hoyt?
Are we taking a vote?
You were taking a vote. Roll call.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to deny as well.
Mr. Dempsey?
I'll make a motion to deny.
And the chair approves. Motion fails 4-1.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, we have a series of motions that were made. I would ask, I would put on the record to have a roll call vote, yes or no. A yes being a denial, a no would be that you're against the motion to deny. So
Perhaps we can have a do-over?
well, it's not a do-over. I've heard a series of motions that have been made and seconded, but there's no roll call on the record on the motion to deny. So we need to have a roll call where a yes would be a motion, a yes is a vote to deny, a no would be a vote to reject the motion to deny.
So I made a motion to deny. Ms. Street seconded my motion. I say aye to my motion.
Right, so we'll do over. We'll do a roll call vote. And I apologize. This will be in favor of this application. This will be in favor.
The motion is to deny
The motion is to deny the application. I'm sorry. Ms. Young?
I vote aye to deny.
Aye to deny. Ms. Streets?
I vote aye.
Mr. Hoyt?
Deny.
Mr. Dempsey? And the chair voted yes to accept. So the motion fails 4-1.
Oh, Mr. Chair, just want to be clear, I vote aye to deny. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Aye to deny. Apologies.
Is the town attorney satisfied with that roll call?
I want to be clear, the chair votes yes to reject the motion to deny. That's the one. There were 4 yeses to deny.
There were 4 yeses to deny, and there was one
no
to
deny.
approve. I
think-
voted to approve. The
Paul,
other
I think the town attorney is asking you to say nay, since you're not in favor of the motion to deny.
All right, I just didn't want to make the confusion there.
Thank you.
All right. Apologies for that. Okay, so now we'll go through the minutes. Yeah.
Motion to
Is there a
approve the
motion to-
minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes by Ms. Young. Anybody second? Second by Mr. Dempsey. All in favor?
Aye.
Unopposed? Okay. And there's no CAM site review? Any concerns from the members or comments?
Prior to opening up to the rest of the commission, I'd been working with Chairman DeCilio based on some of his concerns with the Zoning Board of Appeals application, as well as some general feedback that we had gotten from the entire commission over the past few months. Chairman DeCilio and I had a chance to sit down and discuss some of the changes. You should have all received a red line copy of the Zoning Board of Appeals application. We should fast forward to page 3. The first change is in the applicant's written statement. We are asking that the asking that the applicant cite how many feet and inches that are needed for the variance being sought, and to be sure to explain the present conditions to the proposed conditions. I had no concerns with that request. On to page 3, we had changed some language on what types of plans are going to be required. You know, for most variances, the language says we require a plot plan certified by a registered land surveyor. We think that, and after talking with the town engineer, an A2 survey basically says all of that and also gives a bit more detail, especially when we're talking about proximity of structures to the property lines. It basically, it requires the surveyor to go out and do the field work and not just base it off of other work that's been done, giving us more accurate information to make your decisions on. We added the survey required for pools. We see a lot of above-ground pool variance applications here. It didn't require a survey before. It probably should. Anytime we're talking about something's distance to the property line, we think the survey is an appropriate request. The motor vehicle, we're taking motor vehicle out of here because the zoning commission here in Stratford hears motor vehicle licenses, not the zoning board of appeals. So that just needed to be removed entirely. And then the last one that we added a survey for is a fence. If it's requiring a variance, the board should know that the fence is going on the property owner's property and it's not encroaching, or we're not creating a property line dispute between two neighbors. And then the last one on this page is in the checklist number 3. All district development standards shall be tabulated and shown on plans. What Chairman DeCilio wanted to add was indicating which standard is being requested for the variance. So if it's a coverage, under the coverage in the chart where coverage is listed, it'll either be in bold or italicized. They'll indicate somewhere, some way that that is where a variance is being sought. Off to page 6, for the instructions to the applicant for notifying adjoining property owners. We had talked about having the certificates of mailing be delivered to our office as opposed to at the public hearing. So we added in the language that instead of being presented to the board, that they need to be submitted to the Office of Planning and Zoning no later than 3 days prior to the public hearing. And that's it. Those are the changes that were at least discussed initially.
So when would that be enacted?
Well, I think that we would leave it up. If there was any other comments, you folks would take a vote to adopt the revised application.
Ms. Young?
Do this? Does that help? To use the microphone? Okay. First of all, bravo. Thank you very much to you and our absent chair tonight for your hard work on this. A couple of questions. With respect to the 3 days prior to the public hearing for delivery of the certificates of mailing, can I ask why the number 3 was chosen?
Well, they need to be sent, let's see. Let me get back to it. I think it's at least 14 days, no later than 14 days prior to the public hearing. So the thought was, okay, if you send it on the 14th day, if you wait till that last day, I don't know if anyone has sent anything in the mail recently, but it doesn't come back within a week and a half. It just doesn't. We used to mail packets to commissioners and they weren't getting there in 2 weeks. That's why we deliver them now. So we thought that any more than 3 days might be tough if someone waited to the 14th day. So it was kind of doing a little bit of math, trying to figure out where the postal system is at, and then kind of a shoot from the hip number. So that's how we came up with it.
I was hoping for longer than 3. As you know, my day job doing something similar to you, we require these certificates of mailing to be sent within 3 days of submission of the application to give as much notice as possible to the neighbors so they can become engaged, come see you, ask questions, and so forth. I wonder if that you might bring back to the chair consideration of 7 days, some middle ground?
Sure. And I think that's a really good point. And I've actually heard the flip side to that where I've heard you don't want them sent out too early either because sometimes, well, and this would contradict my statement about the Postal Service, no criticism there, but that if they're sent too early, folks can sometimes tend to forget about things when they're notified a month in advance. But I have no problem with 7 days or a little more or a little less. I think that's still right in the realm of where we should be.
Ms. Young, you satisfied with that answer?
I think Ms. Streets wants to speak on this.
I want to make sure that you were set before I went to
I'm
Ms. Street.
interested to hear what she has to say.
Ms.
Just
Street?
a minor thing, I would just suggest that you add whatever number of days we arrive at, that they be business days.
Good
As
point.
opposed to weekends or whatever.
So I want, Mr. Urbanski, you to have the last word because you're the one who has to deal with it. I would recommend something greater than 3. I like 7, but I'm not going to lose sleep if I don't get my 7.
7's one of my lucky numbers, so I'm all right with 7. I like 7.
Can I ask a couple of other questions?
Sure.
Forgive me if others find it useful, but I'm wondering about the deeds. In my experience, some, but not all applications necessitate reviewing the deeds. My experience is it's not an easy task to gather that level of information, and I'm wondering if, in your experience, it's something that your office finds useful every time, or could that be discretionary? And, giving a heads up, you may be required to submit this, staff will advise you, rather than mandating everyone do that exercise. What is your experience?
I would say 1 out of every 10 applications does the deed come in handy. And I think making it discretionary, the one time that we need it at the public hearing for some reason, I will have forgotten to ask for it with all the other stuff that's going on. But, I think the deeds are more important when we're talking about subdivisions and, tracking what has happened with a property over the years. So, yeah, in all honesty, I don't look at the deeds all that often. That's one of those Stratford practices that, where I came from, we didn't have deeds submitted with applications. If it wasn't the property owner that submitted it, the applicant had to provide a letter of authorization from the property owner, and that was good enough. But I'd be interested to hear other options.
So again, I leave the last word decision to you as to what will help you and prepare us. My recommendation would be to make that a discretionary item, which would require you and your staff to look at these things sooner rather than later to determine, is this one of those items when we'll need it, so you can get that information to the applicant ASAP. And I think we all take the risk if we decide we need it and you haven't asked for it. Well, the good news is we can continue the hearings to receive it. It's not a fatal flaw.
And that's okay with me. I think I'd like to talk it over with staff first and potentially the town attorney to see if there's some other component to exactly why the deeds are required other than verification of ownership.
Makes sense. Last question, if I may. Looking at page 3 versus page 4, on the, looks like third bullet on page 3, it recommends, give us a plan that's drawn in a professional manner with a capital on professional. And then on page 4, we talk about, we want an A2 survey. Do those conflict, or are we talking about 2 different things? because a professional plan doesn't necessarily equal an A2 survey.
And, that's a really good point. This, let's see, page 3, additional required information. That is a new page, not a new, I actually inserted this page when I started working here to create some sort of standards for how we expect applications to come in. So this is a template that we use for every single one of our land use boards. I could certainly remove some of the language here that says, it is redundant.
I just don't want some smart attorney to point to one thing saying, I don't owe you an
Right.
A2 survey, I've given you a professional plan, I win, you lose. I don't know who would do that to you, but it's happened to me.
If it's possible, it's possible. Yeah, I think that maybe I can take a look at this section and see if there's a way to better, I just have to mirror what we're saying on the following page about the A2 surveys, and I'm sure I can come up with some language that would make sense for that.
And just once again, thank you for all your efforts.
Are there any more items need to be discussed? Motion to adjourn?
Other member concerns besides this checklist?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, one concern, then I'll be quiet for the rest of the night because maybe we'll adjourn. This evening, as well as on other occasions, we've had applicants get up, maybe not using these words, but something akin to by saying, I have a disability of some sort, a physical disability, that I believe is a rationale for granting a variance. And I wonder if the town attorney's office is willing, if we could do research on that topic to see if that's a legitimate substitute for the variances that are tied to the unique nature of a property versus a person. I'm thinking there may be a legitimate exception to the rule that says it has to be about the land, not the people that own the land. But I think we would all benefit from not hearing my opinions, but rather the legal opinions from the town attorney's office as to whether or not that is a legal hardship that can be used by applicants going forward.
To expound upon that, would that take a written statute or to put that in? Or revision?
Well, I think what Commissioner Young is looking for is an opinion as to whether or not, disability and an ADA access requirement may by itself be considered a traditional hardship. And that we could look at and see whether or not that currently exists. We can look at both case law and statutes to discern the answer to that question. If we were to come back and say no, then yes, it would be something that could be looked at as a possible revision to the current statutes.
That captures my need. Sounds like they're in agreement to pursue that when time allows, and I would be grateful.
Absolutely.
And I'll say nothing else.
No, that's what we're here for. Anyone else? Anyone else has any concerns? Mr. Whitty?
Are you all done? I just have a question of Jay. When the applicant submits his application and fills out all the lines and comes to the area of hardship, and you read it, do you make any comment to the applicant, or do you just let it roll to us?
I certainly won't. If there's no legal hardship there, I will not give an applicant a false hardship. I'll say, you're going to have to, here's a nice explanation of what a hardship is, which I took from Commissioner Young's application in Westport that really explains what a hardship is. If there's a legal hardship there, we're going to work with the applicant and say, listen, you have a legal hardship. I think this is probably worth you making an application, and your hardship is X, Y, Z. But if there isn't one there, I won't tell someone to say something, and I always advise staff, you don't want to get involved making up hardships for folks.
It's a gray area.
Yeah. Especially if they get approved, if they get denied, and we tell them what their hardship should be. I mean, if it's ironclad and I know that there's a hardship there present, you know, I'm not looking to make things harder for folks. I want people to get what they're entitled to. And
It's the other side of it, the non-hardship, you know.
yeah,
I guess you can't make that call, so.
no, we just do our best to paraphrase for them.
But to that end, in the spirit of facilitating applicants, do you or your staff perhaps highlight what will end up in print later in one of your staff reports? Doesn't look good, you know, maybe try harder. What you're putting on paper doesn't seem to be consistent with traditional hardship.
Yes, I mean, yes. You know, when they say my hardship is, you know, my dog is gluten-free, he's got to stay in the garage, and I got to build this, they'll say, you know, that's probably not going to work to qualify as a legal hardship. This is what a legal hardship is. So, yeah,
That rolled off your tongue like it just happened today.
we actually have that. I'm not even joking. We have that. So, yeah, we'll let them know when you might want to think of something maybe a little different.
Yours is not an easy job. We thank you again for all that you do.
Your job isn't easy either, so thank you.
Any other concerns?
Kudos to our sitting chair tonight. Thank you very much.
I apologize. Well, thank you, but it was a long day today, and I even forgot John's name for a second. You believe that? So, but we have a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Hoydick, second by Mr. Dempsey. Thank you all. Oh, all in favor? None opposed. Thank you.